that following that, then I've obviously delved into what the government's initiative or new initiative was, which is this Better Health, which is now going to be slightly with a partnership with Slimming World and Weight Watchers subscription. So they're not going to, well, what I've delved into is that they're not going to pay the entire amount. They are discounting the price for people to potentially use, and they're obviously sharing a 12-week NHS plan in terms of getting people to lose weight and offer that sort of service. But like I've said to you, do you not think if there's a better way of offering sort of like an implement, like I said to you, in terms of fitness trackers or something to encourage people to lose the weight? I mean, years ago, I can recall something in Russia in terms of to get on a train, they had to do something like 20 squats or something to get free transport somewhere. I mean, I'm not saying that's the way forward, but that's just an initiative that they got people to activate free transport, for instance, there.
I'll be honest, I've never heard of that. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, first of all, I have absolutely no idea how they're going to be able to qualify people to fit into that category, to be honest. Because if you're saying you're in that obese category because your BMI is above what it typically should be, because it doesn't take into consideration how much muscle mass you hold versus how much body fat you hold, yeah, I've no idea how they're gonna do that. And in terms of like what you've mentioned with regards to the government's initiatives with regards to Slimming World and Weight Watchers, I think, and they're going to put some money towards that. I appreciate they are in a difficult position. I wouldn't want to be doing what they're doing, to be honest.
No.
However, with that being said, I feel like it's a really lazy move. I don't feel like they've looked into it at all. I don't feel like there's any passion there really to make a significant difference. I think they've just gone and looked at what's easy. Well, we know millions of people do Slimming World. We know millions of people do Weight Watchers. Yes, some people will lose weight, but there's also a reason that people go back to Weight Watchers and go back to Slimming World multiple times. Is because it's not a particularly sustainable approach. It doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't educate you particularly well. In fact, if anything, it sort of causes some of the issues that people have with regards to relationships with food and what they're told is good and bad and what they can and can't eat, and even such as things like scale weight and stuff like that, which is just really, really bizarre. You know, people getting weighed in the middle of an afternoon every other Wednesday or something, and if they've not lost any weight, then they can't have a treat or something like this. It sounds a little bit bizarre to me, but yeah, I think there'd be much better options for the government to look at rather than, quite frankly, these lazy approaches. And I think effectively, if already we're saying what a third to a quarter of the country is already obese, then if that's not a big enough wake-up call to say, actually, we need to do something significant here in terms of educating people as to how and why we've got in this position and what people need to actually be focusing on to make a significant difference, i.e., yes, staying active, walking 10,000 steps a day. One thing that's been great in since sort of lockdown is seeing like families out on their bikes and all this sort of stuff, which we probably never would have seen. But in terms of the nutrition side of things, educating people about, you know, your calorie intake and how to reduce that, because whether you track your calories or not, they still count, you know, and not everyone has to track calories to lose weight and to feel healthy and to really benefit their life in terms of like looking better, feeling better, and as a result having more confidence and their clothes fitting better and everything. But the government need to do a much better job in terms of putting some form of educational program together, whether that's from the schools up or whether that's, I think now we're gonna end up with a generation where people are dying 10, 15, 20 years earlier than they should do because of the adverse health effects that obesity causes. So they need to probably plough billions of pounds into some form of educational process or system where people actually understand that no, it's not the fact that you had a couple of sugars in your tea is the reason you're obese or whatever. It's due to the fact that for a consistent period of time you are eating and drinking way more than you should, and you're not being as active, and as a result this is the position you're in. So how they want to tackle that, that's up to them. I've sort of got some ideas of my own, but like, yeah, I think they just need to do a much better and more thorough job than they are doing now. And I just think it's probably an attempt at a quick fix. And as I say, it's just a lazy option and lacking a lot of real passion and thought, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've looking from obviously researching it recently. It looks like they've previously done partnerships with Slimming World in the past. So it's probably like you said, it's just a quick fix for the time and just trying to get through that. Do you find the digital age is having an effect as well? Like obviously, I've talked before to someone about like the human race and how hundreds of years ago, like cavemen, all that sort of stuff, they had to hunt for their food. Now we're in a digital age now where you can just pick your phone up and just click on blooming Uber Eats or any of these sort of delivery services and just get food literally within 10-15 minutes without even doing anything nowadays. And I think that's created that sort of, I don't know how to describe the right word for that, but just the way that people are just not, I think sedentary might be just something like that, really, is the sort of way people are now with food and stuff, instead of actually like, this was a good opportunity to educate people to actually prepare their own food and learn to cook and do the right thing.
100% agree. And it's funny you say that in terms of back to almost like caveman times, but actually I've seen some research that I could probably dig out for you where I think it was between like 50, 60 years ago, on average, we consumed, and it's probably more than this now because I've probably seen this research 5, 6, 7 years ago. We consumed on average 500 calories less per day across the board. Yeah. Now, if you add that up over a week, that's a fair amount. Now, if you also take into consideration that we had much more active lives, but also active and manual jobs than we have now.
Yeah.
So if you think that through nutrition alone, we were eating, let's say 500-600 calories less on average than we are now. Mm-hmm. It's probably more than that. Yeah. But also the fact that we were working manual jobs and everything now is automated. If you look at a lot of people, their routine is they get up in the morning, they drive to work, they sit at work all day, they drive home, they sit at home in the evening, they repeat that 5 days a week. While in terms of the food side of things, you literally, you do not have to move anywhere to have food delivered to your door. You can lay on the sofa, click on Uber Eats, you can pay over your phone. All you have to do is walk to your door, collect the food when it's delivered and walk back. Now, don't get me wrong. We do live in a world now where everything is a million miles an hour. People don't seem to have time. But I think we have more time than we realise in terms of the decisions that we make, how we spend our time when we're not at work, etc. And I think it is actually fairly simple to make smarter decisions with regards to our food. And for example, all the money people are spending on takeaways, if you really don't want to cook, like pay for a meal prep delivery service. Yeah. So that there is, and I actually wrote about this yesterday, there are always options and always solutions to having a lack of time. Now, for example, I'm not a parent, so I cannot empathize with how busy and stressed some people are that have kids and do work, every single hour and feel like they don't get enough sleep. There are a handful of people who legitimately do not have a spare second to themselves. However, I coach a few people like that, and we've managed to find solutions to their problems in terms of having a lack of time, whether it is meal prep delivery services, whether it is ideas that literally take them 3 to 5 minutes to do. They get a shopping list together, they can pick healthier options in terms of, every supermarket that you go to now has high protein, lower calorie, tasty, ready meals, if you like. I think if you said ready meal to someone 10, 15 years ago, they'd be like, they're a load of shit. Now they're completely different, because luckily the fitness industry has started to filter into the mainstream somewhat, in terms of all these meals, and you see protein bars everywhere and all this sort of thing. So I think there are always options and there are always solutions. But again, I think it comes down to education for people, whether that's through coaches, whether that's through the government filtering it down. But again, perhaps the sort of government need to speak to some individuals that can give them some better ideas, rather than just pushing people back onto Slimming World or Weight Watchers or whatever.